All right, so we're back here with Andrew. Last week we talked about his journey and just even getting to this process of like setting up all these various accounts. Now I remember when we were talking about those different accounts, I remember you were saying like, okay, well, I've got a tax-free savings account. Is that the best tax efficient account? Or I have an RRSP account. Is that the best tax efficient account? Or, then there's the RESP, and it was like, it just seemed like there was, even when I looked into it, when I was first looking into it, I'm like, why are there so many different accounts that I can set up?
Yeah.
Like, and then when you talk to somebody, I think that's where people kind of feel confused, right?
Yeah.
So
what are
your thoughts on that? Like when you were trying to plan
definitely can get overwhelming, especially when you're looking at it. I mean, anyone looking into it, you definitely got to dive in, and there's lots of research you got to do on with figuring out the advantages to the accounts, which I won't get into. But like for that was basically I was looking at basically my income. So in terms of how much you make, so if you make so much, you're getting taxed at different levels. So that's where I was like, okay, so for your RRSPs was good for that. And so I was just looking at the different, where I want to be when how much money do I need when I retire? And for my tax-frees, I was looking at basically for weddings and for either vehicles and my kids' educations. You know what I mean? It's definitely, it's different for every single person, I think. I think everyone has to come out with their own plan. I don't think there's any set, like, for instance, with these accounts, but you can have really good advantages on how you monopolize on them.
So you mentioned like when you were looking at it, you had to chunk everything out. So did you kind of like forecast all of the different large ticket items financially and then know kind of how much money you're hoping to get?
Yeah, like how I did it is I had a decent amount saved, and then I basically forecast on that I was just like, okay, how much do I think I'm going to put more into the accounts? Because with being, 34, I was looking at, okay, how much will I put in each year? So I was forecasting that. I mean, a lot of these things, it's hard because there's a lot of there's a lot of variables in life, but you got to go with your best judgment on what you think for planning.
Right.
And I just broke it that way down, and then I did percentages on, how much for each spot.
Yeah.
And that's really how I laid it out.
Did you ever have, there's a term called analysis paralysis. I don't know if you've heard that term or not, but it's basically when people, they spend their whole time just analyzing things and trying to get it like super perfect, where then they freeze because they can't. It gets overwhelming, and
definitely.
Did you have any of that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it took a good 6 months before I even took the plunge and putting everything into it. It was definitely challenging because there's a lot of things, because you're committed. Once you put into those things are locked in, and there's taxes on that, whatever accounts you put in, and there's repercussions from that. So you definitely freeze up a little bit in how you do it, but I used the compound calculator on looking at, okay, so if I get 8%, where I'm going to be at, and how much do I think I'm going to put in every year?
Yeah, that's good.
So I really just did it that way and kind of just structuring that, and I feel really good. I mean, my returns this year have been great. Very happy with how things are going. And just every year, I'm not the type of guy that I want to spend. I work full time. As an electrician, so this isn't my full time thing. I don't want to be worrying about it. I really just want to put my money in, see it grow, and I just don't want to have it at the end of my spot, basically in my life, where when my kids have to go to school, that I'm like, oh great, Like now they have to go in debt. That's the spot I didn't want to go in when they wanted to go to get secondary education.
Yeah.
And then I didn't want to get into the spot where if we have, say, weddings or different things, I want to be able to help my kids with that. And then even when retirement, I just don't want to have it where when I become 60, then I'm just like, what do I do? Where am I going to, how's money going to go? Am I going to live with my kids? So really, but I didn't want to have it where it was every day where I'm just kind of like, okay, I got to do the stock trading, or I have to figure this stuff out. I just want something simple, easy, where I can put it in and see it grow.
Right. And I think that's a big point too when people are looking at passive investing, right?
Yeah.
They're like, is there such a thing? Because there's tons of ads out there. Like I get ads all the time, probably because I'm doing all this stuff with Good Fruit Investors. But it's like, hey, you want to grow your money? You want to, drive this Lamborghini or whatever it is? And it's like, dude, I just want to like go and do my job, and I want to be able to save and like just do it the right way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
Like it's like there's not really like a, as much of people kind of like marketing towards that and just kind of going like, here's the safe way of doing it, unless you go and you talk to like some financial planner or something like that, right? But did you find like when you were looking at the planning, because when we were talking about that analysis paralysis, like I get the idea of like needing to plan, right? Because like everybody needs to put the time in to be able to think about it before you kind of make the shot. Yeah. But did you find like at least, I'm hoping maybe like with some of the stuff with Good Fruit Investors, like there were, ways that it kind of jump started it a little bit for you, or you felt like it was a little bit easier? Or
yeah, I mean, Good Fruit Investors definitely got you. There was definitely some good key tips on the course and different things that helped out. Even just having the environment around people that have the mindset of investing. I mean, that's a great, it really gets you thinking. It gets your mind, even when you're just kind of, doing your day-to-day stuff, your mind's going, kind of thinking. So a lot of that had to definitely start up, and that made it more easier to make the jump into it.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of unknowns that I had that questions got answered in Good Fruit Investors.
Right.
But for myself, I just really...
Now here's the other question that I have. Did you find it wasn't as difficult as maybe when you were first looking at it?
Oh, for sure, yes.
Yeah, okay,
good. Yeah, a lot more.
Because a lot of people are probably scared when they're thinking like, we're talking about RESPs and RRSPs and TFSAs, and you're talking about putting a plan together, taking 6 months. Like, it sounds daunting.
Yes. Oh, it definitely is.
But I mean,
but the thing is, if you don't do it now in your life, especially depending on whatever age, because you can start at any age, but you don't do these things, I mean, things just stay still. You can always move forward in this, and the market, it's out there, and it's proven itself. And these accounts, I mean, the government sets these accounts for people to take advantage of.
So maybe give some people context, like what is not that you have to go into each of the accounts, but like what's one of the juicy benefits that you get from one of those accounts?
I mean,
what's
a cool thing, like for your kid's education fund. Yeah. I mean, when you put money into it, Ontario, like they'll give you 20% on top of your money. So like that's a pretty good perk. So just right off the bat, like 20% of extra money is going right towards your kid's education. Right. So I mean, if you like, for me, I have 3 kids. You can do a family account, so you can have it basically with all 3 kids. I thought it was for me, I think one of my 3 are going to go into either university or college. You never know. It is a gamble. You hope that one of them do. But I just thought, okay, well, that's 20%. And that's a pretty good advantage when that time comes. But I didn't. So, and how you structure it is, I didn't put everything in that. Right. But I mean, in that account, I definitely dabbled in it, and I put some money into it because I'm like, okay, this will be a good advantage.
It's a very good advantage. Like if I had to pay to have my kids go to school, and I'm paying 100% of the bill. Yeah. Or I can have the government pay 20%. Yeah. And if I accumulate some interest along the way, right? Yeah, and it kind of saves you a little bit as well too, right?
Yeah, and you're 8 to 10% on the market. So so you pretty much, you think about it, you're getting like pretty much 30%. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and then you're not even counting the compound and everything. So there's some definitely advantages that way for sure.
And then if you think about it, even if the market kind of had a little bit of a dip, because it'll have a dip depending on the year and everything else. But overall, generally it goes up. Again, it depends on what you're invested in. But if you're diversified enough, right? Yeah. It'll perform in that manner, and it's like having that extra chunk that comes from the government. It almost like gives you that cushion that even if it did have a little bit of a whoop, it's kind of like you're not really taking a super, super large hit. Yeah. Because you're able to bounce out of it a little bit easier, right?
Oh, for sure. And that's and definitely and diversity, that's the one thing for myself that, I mean, Good Fruits really promote it and say it is a big thing. But diversing with your different accounts, different stocks. You know what I mean? Just keeping things spread out. So then, if you do get those dips, you're good.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. I hope that's an encouragement for somebody out there, and looking forward to see you guys in the next video.